everyone. Welcome back to Outpost Gray, a YouTube channel designed to provide you information in innovation, technology, and cybersecurity. If you're new here, I am your host, Jack Scott, and I am thrilled to have you on the show. Just a reminder, all of the content delivered on this show is of my unique thoughts and opinions and not Grant Thornton's thoughts and opinions. We are in partnership with Grant Thornton. And today I am testing out a new mic. So how does it sound? I'm really excited about it. It's kind of hidden over here, like under the shirt, because I didn't want to use like the mic device, but I was kind of freaking out about using it. I just did like an amateur move. I just tested a mic during a live stream instead of like testing it at like lower threat level. But I think it'll work well. Just so you guys know too, the reason that I got the new mic is I'm going to be at RSAC this year. Really excited about doing an in-person conference. And I'm going to be doing on the spot, like on ground interviews there. I'll be sending out a calendar to let you guys know when the live streams will be happening so you can hop on. They'll be probably about 20 minutes. So they're going to be shorter. And it'll just be meeting with some of the key leaders out there. And we've got a lot of women on deck. So I'm really excited about that. For all of the new guests that are here, thank you so much. I've already seen some names that repeat offenders. Lupe, good to see you. James, always number one. Cybersecurity Central. Love you guys. Kimberly, if I haven't seen Michelle, I know she's going to probably pop in here eventually. Jenny Housley, welcome. First time seeing that name. If you've been in here before, welcome back. And not only IT, you guys are awesome. You are the reason that I am doing these shows, is to provide you information, and to see you guys come back, that means the world to me. All right. So just so you guys know, today is our highlight series. I'm a little behind. I should have already had the screen up, but we are going to be doing the highlight series, which is all about highlighting women in the innovation in the technology space. And May, I'm excited about. I actually met Melissa Aarskaug probably about, I want to say like 5 or 6 months ago. I met her through a mutual friend. We'll probably talk about how we met because I actually can't remember. I think it might have been a Spencer. She is amazing. This woman talk about breaking barriers and glass ceilings, and any other adjective that you want to use will work perfectly for Melissa. So you guys are in for a real treat. Do me a favor, if you have any questions for Melissa, drop them in the chat using a capital Q so I can catch them. And let's go ahead and let's get to it. I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest on. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi.
Did I get the last name? I think I got it right.
You're good. It's
close enough.
It's the name. Aarskaug.
Aarskaug. Yeah, last week I had one of our German cybersecurity experts, and I didn't practice his last name before. I just winged it, and it was pretty rough. But how are you? It's so great to finally get you on the show. I know we met. It's been a few months.
I think it's been longer. Yeah, it's been a while. We met a while back, and you're right. It was Spencer that introduced us.
It was Spencer. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was Spencer or not. Yeah, you were. Were you pregnant when I met you?
Actually, no. We met before I was pregnant.
It's been that long. That's amazing.
Yep.
So much has changed. This was not even the highlight series was not even something I was working on at the time when we got introduced, and I loved our conversation. So when I developed this highlight series, you were one of the very first women that I reached out to. So I was thrilled that you said yes and that you were coming on the show today. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
This is going to be great. I think your background is just so rich in a lot of different ways, not only your technical background of being an engineer and then moving into the space that you're in right now within gaming, but just some of the hurdles as being a woman in that space that I'm looking forward to talking to you about. But before we dive too deep into that, I want to give you a couple of minutes to share your background and your origin story of how you got to where you're at today, the vice president of business development.
Yeah, thanks for that. So as Jax mentioned, I am I guess by education, civil environmental engineer. I started very young in that field by young, very young, I mean 8. I had been babysitting for a man who was an engineer. And he really mentored me. I was 8 watching his kids. His kids were young. He thought I was very mature. So he let me babysit his 3 kids, not 1, not 2, but 3 children. And I'll never forget. I remember his wife saying, Art, she's 8, not 15. He was convinced I was 15 years old. And so that's really where it started for me. He taught me, to be interested in engineering and building. And I ended up working for a company. He was an engineering company he was partnered in, and studied civil and environmental engineering, worked for many different groups, from a publicly traded company to a monopoly. I worked on a very large bridge in Nevada, and I fell into the world of gaming, which is just funny how life happens. I accidentally applied to the wrong job, and I'm one that believes everything in life happens for a reason, to just go with the flow. And so when the HR department called me, I thought, I'm like, no, you have the wrong person. I don't have any casino gaming experience. And she's like, no, is this Melissa Aarskaug? And I'm like, yes. And I went in for the interview. I had several interviews at the company, which was great. I loved everybody that interviewed me. They were some of the most challenging interviews I've had in my life. And I've been with the organization for 10 and a half years. And through that time, I've had many different roles, I would say, and worked with many different types of customers that we service in the casino gaming industry.
Wow, that is a remarkable story. So that's so crazy. You applied for the wrong job. I remember you sharing this story to me, and I'm still, even though I'm hearing it again, it's so astonishing, because you went in, you applied for the wrong one. And when you were selected for this position, it wasn't a position that you had applied for. What did they say to win you over for you to go ahead and say, okay, I guess I'll give it a shot. I'll try this out.
I liked the people that interviewed me. One of the gentlemen that interviewed me, big team sports. He was a executive at the company now. He was into team sports. We talked about sports. And then another one of the men that interviewed me was also an engineer, and he asked me questions about, if I did this in this situation, what would be the outcome and what would I do? So he asked me really challenging questions, and I think it was the people. And I had no experience there, so I had never been in the industry. It sounded interesting, and I'm like, what the heck? If things don't work out, I'm highly employable. I can take another job. And so I started at the company, and to your point, I did not think I would be there as long as I am there. And it's been a great 10 and a half years.
Yeah, you're spearheading some of the change within that organization. I'd love to peel back that onion a little bit and talk about some of the things that you're actually doing now, because you've been there for quite a long time. You've seen how the organization has shifted just in the last 10 and a half years. I guess a better way of scoping this question would be, what are some things that you're doing, if you can just talk about and share with us, that looks like, what is your day? Here we go. What is your day-to-day? What does day-to-day Melissa life look like for you within your position?
Squirrel.
Yeah.
Squirrel. That's my day. Every day.
That's my day.
Type A person. I would say I'm a recovering perfectionist. So every day I think I'm organized and planned, and I have a strategy, and every day it shifts, and it takes an army. And I think when I first got in the industry, got involved in the casino gaming industry, it was really, Vegas was one of the big markets, Las Vegas. Everybody knows Vegas. Everybody went there and gambled. And over the course of the last 10 and a half years, we've seen a lot of tribal casinos open. Recently now, there's a number of states now that have legalized sports wagering and internet gaming. And it's changed a lot, and it's still changing. So you have a lot of companies that are non-gaming moving into the gaming space, whether it be play for free, play for fun. So there's a lot of change and there's a lot of growth. And the gaming industry historically wasn't a technology industry. They were using very old, antiquated systems. They were, now when you pull into Vegas, the lights on the parking garage show you where there's a green available parking. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. And so the industry's using a lot of AI. They're using a lot of technology now, and they've went from behind technology to ahead of the curve with technology, and they're getting better and better.
So that actually is the next question I wanted to ask you, and you kind of started to answer it. So gaming, you mentioned it, gaming was not a technology industry, but it has moved into that. I remember when I was a kid, and I actually lived in Vegas for 4.5 years. And I've seen how it's shifted even since I moved there in 2014 and 15. It's even shifted since that point in time. And it's really interesting because what we see a lot of times in the technology space is, especially within securing that space, cybersecurity, infosec, it's a lot of reactionary moves. But it sounds like in the gaming industry, you all were in some ways not reactionary, but proactive within your approach to moving into a more technology space. Was that because of demand of needing to move into that space? How did that shift happen for you all? And then while you're doing that shift, how are you keeping that technology secure? Two-fold question, calm down questions.
Yeah, toss them over. I think, our owner is very progressive. He is fierce. He is on the ball, ahead of the curve, very passionate about the industry. And, if you think of the major, publicly traded companies that we work with, they're all using us in a different capacity. And really that's because we're really a customer service compliance company. We're not a hardcore sales company. So a lot of times people are saying, hey, I have this thing. Can you help me with it? And we're like, well, yeah, I think we can help you with it, or we can partner with some of your partners and figure out how to make things happen. And so I think it evolves for us, right? So a lot of times, the industry thinks they need one thing and it turned out to be something else. And, if you think of a casino has a lot of pieces to it. So you have the actual floor, they have food and beverage and hotel, and they have a lot of data about people, and they have a lot of information about people. And so they need to keep that secure, because that is the most important part of a casino, is keeping their players there, keeping them playing and spending money and driving up revenues.
Yeah, and maybe you can answer this, because I haven't seen a lot of news articles on casino gaming being breached. Has there been any in the last, let's say, couple of years where there's been a breach that has impacted your industry and then has impacted, because I would assume it's connected to the network of that casino and then has impacted the casino? Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, I think there's been several breaches. I think the gaming industry is good about, they're very good about remediating it quickly, notifying the right people, and cleaning it up pretty quickly. So has been breaches. I think all industries have been hit with breaches. There's not a single industry that I don't think that hasn't been hit to some capacity. And I know I personally work in it every day, and I get more phishing emails and more spam emails than I've ever got. And we're using, we're using the tools, right? It just happens. It's just happening right now. And so it's happening for everyone.
Yeah, that's great. That was awesome what you were saying about them mitigating it and wanting. I would have said the word cover it up in a way, because like Vegas, for example, that's where their business comes in. And so if that's getting out, that the win, for example, it has a huge breach and client information was exfilled because of the breach, then they're going to lose business. So that's a really good point, because you don't see that mainstream. You see a lot of other businesses, but not so much in the gaming industry. So they're doing it appears they're doing the right thing. They're much quicker about it. So where we are right now, we're seeing current day today, which is May 2022. we could call this post-pandemic in a way. I mean, we know that there is still COVID-19 out there. People are still getting sick. I just had a couple of friends get sick in the last couple of weeks, but a lot of people are traveling, even probably more so than before COVID. And with that, I could only speculate that places like Vegas are going to start picking up, and it's going to start getting really busy, and conferences are going to start going back there. How has that shift been from your lens, from the gaming lens, seeing it pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, and what does that growth look like?
Absolutely. So IT pre-pandemic, I think their role is to keep the gaming floor up and running. So they're bringing in revenue, and most of the day-to-day of IT departments is just that. During the pandemic, they did cybersecurity assessments, and they've, managed cybersecurity projects internally. And then when the pandemic hit and everybody went home, I think that gave the IT teams time at the casinos to upgrade their system, make the fixes, because the systems were down. Nobody was at the casino. Nobody was there playing. So they had time to really harden their environment, do what they needed to do. Mm-hmm. And then when everybody came back, the IT department's jobs never kind of switched. They got to keep all the existing projects and the changes and the upgrades and the migrations and the changes. But then they also had the day-to-day of cybersecurity, or worrying about ransomware, or do we get our pen test done, or finding a new managed services company, getting our policies and procedures updated. So they had all the existing work, plus the work that they did during the pandemic, and then all the work after the pandemic. So their desks, they're probably, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but I would argue they're the busiest people on the casino floor involved in a casino are the IT departments.
Wow, that's really interesting. And that kind of is a great segue into a question that we received from Carrie about, he says, Melissa, how does cybersecurity play into the casino? And I guess he's reading a book right now, Art of Intrusion, where they've had people breaching the machines. But you talked about it. That's a critical role in keeping these machines secure from these breaches. And even more so, the IT guys have the biggest job, it sounds like.
Yes, absolutely. So before the casinos, the slot machines are even on the gaming floor, before they even go into play, we test them. We test them for compliance. We certify them and make sure that they are, from a mathematical standpoint, also from a physical standpoint, is somebody able to, walk up to the machine and kick it and, offset what they're playing on the machine, or take back their $20 bill once they put it into the machine back when there was money. So there's that kind of before the machines are on the floor. So it's tested and approved through our organization in conjunction with, depending on the state. Each state has different regulatory bodies, regulatory processes. We test for, I think there's about 480 plus jurisdictions around the world we test for. So that's kind of the before the games go into play. And then when they go into play, the casinos are responsible for keeping those systems safe and secure. So they have and do all the regular things that companies will do, from securing the system, encryption, MFA, any of the tools that we all know and hear about to keep the casino environment as a whole secure. So they're doing it with their vendors. Their vendors are getting security assessments. Then the equipment is installed, and then the casinos with the equipment's in play are getting security assessments.
That is so interesting. So much complexity within gaming, so many regulations within gaming. I'm not even fully aware of it. This is a lot to grasp. And I feel like, like in cybersecurity, especially in the federal space, we're seeing a lot of changes on the federal side. And we're starting to see more legislation starting to come out, and more movement within laws and legislation for the defense industrial base. Have you noticed that same shift within your industry where there's more compliance measures and there's more policies in place for securing the data in these in gaming? We'll just say in the last 5 years, have you seen a big movement?
Absolutely. Not only, so we work in the casino gaming space, but we also work in the voting machine industry. We work federally. We work on many different industries, and they all are, seeing the same changes, whether it's a casino or whether it's the voting machine industry. Everybody is doing their testing and making sure their systems are secure. And everybody has different rules and different requirements and different standards that are test. I think the frameworks that we all use are the ISOs and the NIST and the CMMC. But in our industry, we have state regulators that have their own standards, as well as ISO and NIST and other frameworks. So, in the gaming industry, the suppliers have to comply with not only the regular standards for cybersecurity, but the casino gaming standards. Mm-hmm. So whether it's an encryption review or sending over their quarterly scans, or doing a compliance audit or a controls review. So there's different types of rules for the industry as well, outside of just the standard.
Wow, that's so complex. But I get it. I understand the type of data that you're working with and everything, and the impacts that getting one of those systems breached could have. It's amazing. I have a question I think is a great segue, and it's from Kim. Good to see you, Kim, with the whole Cyber Human Initiative. She's asking, does gaming use SCADA or OT? Only asking because she has some mentees, but that's a great question. Do you know if it uses SCADA or OT at all?
So the industry as a whole, they all adopt different rules and different frameworks and different processes. So I think they take different pieces of everything depending on where it's applicable. So, I can't speak to each individual casino, but yeah, they all use different frameworks.
Okay. That's awesome. And then Kimberly, let me grab her question. She asked this a little earlier. Kimberly is a big fan of the gaming space. She was actually thinking about going into it. So that's why she's asking you this question is, what is your favorite part about casino gaming industry? Maybe you can win her over.
That's a great question. I think for me, the industry's evolving. So if we look at the players, like before, when I first started in the industry, the casinos were focused on the baby boomers playing and their spend. And then if we look at the millennials spend, they don't want to stick coins in a machine and pull down the lever and, spin the wheel. They want to play games like they play on their iPhones. They want to play more advanced games, and they want to spend money in other parts of a casino, like hospitality. They want to go drop, a couple $100 on a fancy dinner. They want to go to one of the Vegas pools and go to a pool party. They want to spend their money on other areas within the gaming industry at the casino. So the casinos, some of them have malls, some of them have big pools, they have big sport wagering events, they throw parties, they do things. And so that's what I love about the industry. It is not a one-stop shop, whether you're a kid underage, whether you're an adult, you're a millennial or baby boomer, it can entertain anyone, any age at any time.
God, I love that. Diversity. I love it. James, I think this was an awesome question. This totally, I love talking about legislation and laws and everything. So he's asking, have there been any times when state and local regulation have conflicted with federal regulation? If so, which one? Which one is followed? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So in the gaming,
such a good question.
Yeah, there's a lot to pull back there.
Yeah.
When you think of the gaming industry, it's not just the casino. So you have commercial casinos, publicly traded casinos, and then you have the tribal gaming casinos. Mm-hmm. You have lotteries, you have horse tracks, dog tracks, you have online sports wagering, and each one of those industries are regulated in a different way and differently state by state. So when you think of the tribes, they're sovereign nations. They're regulated by an organization called the NIGC, the National Indian Gaming Commission. And within and underneath the NIGC, depending on the state, there's state agencies that regulate those tribes and that state to comply with the state rules and the NIGC rules as well. So, and so they have both to comply with depending on the jurisdiction. So it's a lot to kind of answer, but in a short answer, yes, there's more than one area to comply with for some of the industry.
So when an organization, when a casino, for example, because I was somewhat familiar, we'll say it like that, somewhat familiar with Trump acquiring a casino in Atlanta. It was in his book. Yep. And he was talking about some of the legislation and the loopholes and things that you have to do. And it sounds like if you want to start something like this up, say I wanted to open a small little gas station with casino machines or something in it, and a restaurant in it, how challenging is that to get that going? Extremely.
It depends on where you're going and what you're doing. So let's just say Nevada, for example. So you want to open a casino in Nevada. You need a gaming license, and you need to get that through Nevada Gaming Control Board. And that license is not just a 2-page questionnaire about your life. It is a very detailed, very intrusive understanding of your life. And that's, one of the reasons that some people have not opened casinos in Las Vegas for different reasons. So, let's say 5 years ago, I deposited, $5,000 into my bank account. I need to explain what that money was for, where it came from, how I got it. Very, very specific information about your life to figure out if you warrant a gaming license. And so that alone detours a lot of people and a lot of companies from being able to get licensed in a jurisdiction to sell their products and services. So if your background is not very, very clean, then it's more likely that you will not be getting a gaming license.
Good to know. I will not be getting a gaming license anytime soon, nor do I want one. I don't gamble at all. But I have seen a lot of, and not right now, probably I don't own a TV, probably why I haven't seen them as much. But there for a while, I was seeing a ton of commercials for online gambling and like sports betting and stuff like that. And I know that there's been a really big shift, and it also is dependent on states that you're in, if you're able to do that. So my question for you, it's going to be kind of complex. I'm going to try to figure out how to present it to you without it being overly complex. But so everything's turning into electronic gambling. Well, that's probably not what it's called, but we'll just call it electronic gambling. And we know that the United States does not have a blanket federal law for protecting user data yet. It is, we've got, the California law, what was the CCPA? There's one in Virginia now, and GDPR has some impact, but not when you're working in the United States. So gambling, you're going to have to worry about how are you going to secure that data. So as we see electronic gambling getting rolled out to each of these states in different ways, how do you think that cybersecurity will be impacted? Or how do you see, actually, better way of saying it, how do you see cybersecurity having more of a role within the gaming industry to ensure that it not only remains secure, but it remains compliant with the different laws that are going to start impacting the online gaming with the PII data, the PCI data, all of that you see, that this is the new future, is going to be online gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, all these companies have to comply from a compliance standpoint. So every single one of the pieces of gaming equipment, whether you're a slot machine or a system or a sports wagering company or an iGaming company, all of them have to be certified before they can play. Customers can play the product from a compliance standpoint. And then secondary, there's many of the gaming jurisdictions have now required a secondary test. They require cybersecurity assessments. So the equipment needs to get a compliance check to make sure they're all the standards in that jurisdiction. Like I said, each one of them have different rules, different requirements. Some are more stringent than others. And then they have a secondary test, a security assessment. And some states have gone even further and said, okay, you've done your compliance certification, you've done your security check. Now you need to have a security controls review. Do you have security controls? Have they been reviewed? When were they reviewed? So there's layers now. So they're definitely protecting their players' data and their players' information.
It's going to be really interesting. And I really, obviously, I hope it doesn't happen. But we have seen through, like, historically, when the Yahoo breach took place in 2016 or something like that, there was a big breach. And then shortly after that, we saw a law get rolled out to protect data. And I cannot recollect the law right now. But we see that our federal system is really reactionary. And a lot of that has to do with we don't know about what a possible breach is going to look like. We didn't know what SolarWinds was going to look like until it happened. What do you have anything that you think about? I know I do as a cybersecurity professional. I think about things where I'm like, ooh, if somebody did this and leveraged this vulnerability or did this, it could be catastrophic effects on like our industrial systems, because I'm very much in the defense industrial base. Are there anything that you think about, especially in your position, and you've seen the growth and where it's going, that, you know, the old saying that keeps you up at night, that you're like, oof, these are areas from the technology, the security standpoint that we really need to get a grip on and we really need to focus on now before it gets out of hand and could cause catastrophic effects in this space?
I think the thing that keeps me up the most at night,
minus your 6-month-old,
is probably, I think, you know, before this call, I was on with the largest insurance company that services the tribal casinos. And I think the thing that keeps me up the most at night is the insurance part of it. So I guess cybersecurity insurance is fairly new, right? It's a new type of insurance, health insurance, home insurance, car insurance that's been around for a while. Before the pandemic, there were huge policies, 25 million, low deductibles, low premiums. And I think the insurance companies are like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? And so I think the thing that keeps me up at night is the companies that aren't, you know, I guess are asleep at the wheel. They haven't like really embraced security, really embraced it if it's never going to happen to us, it won't happen to us. We're going to spend our money on other things or a marketing system or, you know, marketing kiosks. And not that those aren't important spends to a casino, but I think the one thing that keeps me up the most at night is it's not the IT department's job. It's everyone's job. Security is an inside job, a company inside job, from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top. And I think until the organizations start to realize that, that's what keeps me up. Some insurance companies are pulling policies. They're increasing premiums. They're decreasing, policy limits and increasing deductibles. And some clients are going to lose their cyber insurance. And then if something happens, there's no fallback, and they are not getting the support from the top for whatever reason. And that's what keeps me up most at night is that.
That is an extremely similar mentality that we have in this space. And it kind of surprises me, I guess, a little bit, because I would have thought that the gaming space would have been a little bit more forward thinking in that space around security and protection, especially with the type of money and the data that they have, especially with the online gaming piece too. That's a tough one too, because it's a systemic thing that needs to change. And it sounds like it's across the board, including in your industry and all industries. that sometimes the smaller the organization, the more they turn an eye thinking they're not going to be attacked. Why would they be targeted?
Yeah. And even some that have been attacked that are not remediating correctly, or they've, maybe put a C effort into it and said, oh, they won't come back after us again. Or I think it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind is what scares me the most. And the industry has been doing these security assessments. They do protect, and they do, I think of some of my friends on Las Vegas Boulevard, some of the CEO and CEOs and CIOs that we work with, and the same things keep them up at night. A breach happening or to them, and they have big teams and they're working around the clock to make sure their environment's secure. So that also keeps them up at night too. So.
Yeah, and with Vegas, you have the physical security on top of having, because they have that huge server out there, Swift, or I can't remember the name of the server. Yes, yep, and that's one of that one is, I actually got to go in there. It was a really cool experience. It was like Fort Knox. You have like they had AKs behind the glass. You've probably been in there. It's wild, but they have to. I mean, that they have the majority of the data stored right there in those facilities, in those server rooms. And if those were breached, it would take down that entire strip. Yeah. Wild. Okay, so we're going to pivot a little bit. I want to peel back the layer a little bit of Melissa and talk about the softer side of you, like the family side, the hustle side of what goes on behind the scenes, because and being a woman too in this space, you've got a lot to balance. And a lot of people don't see what's going on behind the scenes of balancing family life. You are part of Albany groups. You are on boards. You mentor individuals. You have a newborn 6-month-old son. How do you do it all? Do you have do you have tips and tricks to make it through? Because I mean, you're a VP, so a lot.
Yeah, I think, for me, it's, it's something you have to define for yourself. For me, I'm very mindful. My family is everything. And that's all the way from my mother to father and my extended family. And I think it's planning, it's scheduling. It's being honest about time commitments, putting my family as a priority. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do for a living, so I could work around the clock 7 days a week and not feel like I'm working. And so for me, it's scheduling. It's scheduling what's top of mind. So every morning before I start my day, I get out my good old pen and paper, and I write down the top 5 things I need to accomplish today, personally and professionally. And I work at that list every day. And some days I get to nothing on that list, and other days I get to all of it and then some. But I'm very mindful and very focused on what I'm doing at the moment. And it's easy to kind of squirrel, but I focus on that list every day, and I make my family a priority.
What got you started in doing the 5 things on a list? Because I've heard 3. That's always the good number. Oh, I think I lost.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. It's me. I'm glitching out. Did you hear what I asked the question, or
what got me with 5 and then 5 things instead of 3?
Okay. Yeah. Cause I hear 3, figure out your top 3 things, knock those out. But you said 5. So I found that really interesting. So I'm curious, why did you pick 5?
Well, 5 is my favorite number, and I'm an overachiever. So it just seemed to fit.
I love that. That is a great answer. Oh my gosh. 3 is my lucky number, but I try to put 3 down. So what I do now is I make my list, and it'll usually be overly long. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to highlight or put 1. So I'll put 1s for the ones that I have to get done today, 2s for the ones that and 3s that they could even go to next week. And then I try to use that same list for the entire week and move through it. But I too am in paper. I've been trying so hard to use this electronic platform called Notion to manage out my to-do list.
Yep.
Why for you? Why paper? Because there's so many tools that we can utilize now. Why do you still do pen and paper?
There's nothing better for remembering than pen and paper. There's great tools. It's the mind, writing, and that goes with setting goals too and intentions. Typing goals are great, but writing them is very different. So I'm a big believer in writing. And, it's funny because my husband uses Notion and I had to convert him to writing. And he's much more productive now, which is great. And so we still write and we still use the tools, but it helps us remember and get things done faster.
That is so interesting. You got him from Notion over to paper,
Yep.
and now he's actually being more effective. Very interesting. So maybe I just need to give up on Notion and just back to paper. I love it. TickTick. I've not heard about TickTick as my app of choice. Haven't heard about this at all. I mean, the VA even sent me like this electronic pen. I don't know where it's at. That
I gotta write TickTick down. All right, who was that?
Yeah.
Lewis. I'm writing TickTick down.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to type it out. I'm going to just explore it. Thanks for that, Luis. Yeah, I'm always like, because I travel, I'm starting to travel again. So I'm like, the less thing I can carry. And if it's on the cloud, and then I'll have my notebook there, my virtual notebook. So you've done a lot in your life. Like you're 40 under 40. I want to peel back that layer a little bit, but first I want to talk about like you're a new mom. You are an executive at a very large organization. You do a lot in this space. You're breaking barriers constantly. How has it been being a woman in this space and now being a mom on top of it? Because I know we have our own unique barriers just being women in technology. Have you felt that being a mom or, going through the pregnancy, getting married, doing all of those things, reduced some of your chances of increasing and getting promotions in work? Has it impacted you at all, or has it just been like in a way smooth sailing for you as an executive in this position?
I think I am a better employee. I'm more productive. My mood is better. I'm able to do more because I have my son. And that's a really bold statement. I think I, as a woman who did not have children, you don't understand what it's like to have a child until you have a child. And now that I have a child, I realize that I need to be really focused and mindful on what I'm doing throughout the day, because I don't have as many cycles to do things, because my child needs my attention morning and evening. So I have to be mindful of my day and work through my day. Delegate and trust the people above me, below me, and to the side of me. And then I work in multiples. So what I mean by multiples is, could I take my son on a walk in the evening and talk to a client of mine? And, also, text my mother, right, while she's asking me when she can be back in town to visit. And so I work in multiples. So that's, I'll take a call with a client while I'm pushing my son, and I will, go on a walk with my girlfriends and stay very involved in all the buckets of life that are important, that make us whole. So I think, my son's helped me be a better person overall, and I'm much happier.
I love that. That is really interesting. And being a woman that does not have any children, I know that I have a lot of friends that have kids, and they will sometimes use their children as an excuse of why they can't get things done. So I'm curious, how you just seem like this is just born in you, of this type of mentality. Have you always been this way, where you're like, you don't let excuses slow you down, you just drive forward? I mean, you had a kid and you were already working out. I'm assuming, hopefully you took the ample of time off from work and like regroup? Because you seem like that type of person. It's like 2 weeks, I'm back in the office. Let's go.
You know what? I am that person. That is who I am. And then, you know, all the things that go with that. And I'm blessed. The company I work for was very supportive. And I had many people, including my clients, that were around me. I thought it was such a blessing. When I went on maternity leave, I had my clients sending me maternity gifts, and the kid had more gifts and flowers. My employer's sending me flowers, and, you know, a lot was handled while I was away, and nothing was dropped, not a thing was missed. And that goes to show my team and the leadership in preparing to go out, preparing and planning before I went out, which is never easy when you go out for 12 weeks. But, you know, and I'll give you an example. So last night I had a meeting. I was supposed to not have my son. Plans shifted. I ended up taking my meeting with my son, and it was fine. Everything was fine. And I think it's the things we tell ourselves. Oh gosh, this person's going to be so irritated. She was a woman, a leader as well, and she doesn't have kids, and she was completely fine. And I said, hey, look, this is what my husband had something going on. I had to bring him, and she's like, this is awesome. I get to meet your son. He's awesome. And so it was fine. I think it's the voices we tell ourselves and the things. You know, that's the real world we live in today. People have kids and they have to take them places, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I love that example. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that will resonate with a lot of women that watch this show. So you have been listed as the Emerging Leader of Gamming 40 under 40, a monumental achievement. So that's like so awesome. Like that was one of the first things I talked to you about when we had our first connect. So I just think that, I mean, that's not given to just anybody. What are you doing now? What are the other things that you're working on and accomplishing on top of having a child and raising him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my passion, like I told at the beginning of the show, I've had amazing male mentors in my life, female mentors, and I am where I am today because of the people that have come in my life, good or bad. I am who I am today because of all of them. And part of my passion, so for 20 years, over 20 years now, I've been mentoring and women from all ages, all backgrounds, stay-at-home moms that, you know, at 19 got married and were stay-at-home, and they started over at 49, and getting them back in the game. This woman I'm talking about is one of my dear friends, and she now owns a very large business. And then young girls that are questioning if, hey, is this for me? You know, I'm good at math, but, you know, there's not a lot of women in there. And, you know, supporting them. And if they don't have support at home or around them, giving them the support that they need to, you know, take a job or to take a leap and try it out. And, you know, the women that I mentor, I tell them, I said, look, you try it on. It's just like a shoe, right? You can try it on. If you don't like it, try on another shoe. And if you don't like that, try on another shoe, and keep trying it on till you figure it out, and be true to yourself and true to your employer. I personally love what I do. I love the employer I work with. I get it's a good fit for them, and it's a good fit for me. I come every day with 100% effort. Some days, you know, I'm, you know, better than others, just like anybody else, but I give it 100% every day.
Yeah. Sometimes I always say sometimes my 100% is 70%, but it's still 100% for that day for what I can provide. Yep. I want to touch on the 40 under 40 and talk about something you shared with me on our first call together. And you had shared that you were nominated the first time for 30 under 30, and that you actually turned down the award. And I was just like, oh my gosh, why? I would love for you to share a little bit about that, because I know for myself, going through just cybersecurity, the military, being in the special ops, there's so many things that we do as women that we start to find ourselves in this place of being like the imposter syndrome, the coin word that we hear all the time, or the coin saying. Why did you turn that down? What was happening in your life where you didn't think that you deserved that award?
Yeah, that's interesting. So for me, I think at the time I was working in maybe not the healthiest of work environments at a company that didn't value women in that space. And I think I did not take it for fear of my male colleagues. And that's very sad to say, but I didn't take it because I already stood out. I was, young and blonde and girly, and I love to wear red lipsticks. Of course, I didn't wear that as much then as I do now. Now I just own it. I think it comes with age, right? Now I just am who I am. And back then, I was more worried about, fearful of being judged, I guess. And, I know the first day of college, I was the only girl in the class, and one of the guys in the class said to me, "Are you lost? Aren't you in home ec?" And I looked at him and I just kind of,
Wow.
I'm like, no, this is, CE 101. And I walked into the class, and I was in the honors program at the College of Engineering on a full ride scholarship. And I just crushed the class just because that's my personality, mainly because of the thing he said. I'm like, all right, that's it. Now we're going at no. So anyway, so I think it's just how I was at the time. And if I could go back and talk to my younger self, and this is what I tell what other people think of you is none of your business, right? And you get to decide the people that get to speak into your life. And, I have my advisory board of people, men and women, and they get to speak into my life. And the others, like that person that made that comment to me my first day of engineering school, I let his words affect too much of me. And so I think that comes with age. Melissa now would say, if somebody said something ridiculous, I would probably come up with some, funny comment back, and just, move on.
Yeah, keep it lighthearted. I agree with you. It does come with age, and I've noticed it as well. I love where I work. I love my team. I've been in toxic environments. I think that's also a big thing too, is if you're not happy where you're at, it's harder to let those things kind of roll off your back. Get into a space that is healthy for you, that allows you to shine your light and be who you are and be your authentic self without having that judgment cast upon you or people look down on you. I think that's the biggest thing that I learned through my journey of just kind of trying to find my place in the world as I climb that ladder. Before we wrap this up, I know you just hit on some amazing things, but final thoughts that you would like to share with the viewers before I take you off screen and send you over to the green room?
No, I think, success looks different for everyone every day. Some days it's just having lunch before 2 p.m, and other days it's, helping a customer solve a problem. I think we're all in this together. We're all, here to help each other out, whether it's somebody at the company or somebody that I don't know. I have people reach out to me on LinkedIn quite a bit and say, hey, do you know of this? And I'm always happy to help. I'm always happy to be a resource. And, for anyone who's trying to test out different industries, give it a try. Like, what's the worst that could happen? You take another job or you learn something new, and it's just another tool to put in your toolbox. And I say, keep going, keep making mistakes, because that's how we grow as people. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning, whether it be with dating, whether it be with a job, or you had a goal to start the gym in January and it's May and you haven't gone back since January 2nd. Start over, keep trying, keep getting on that horse, and you'll find what you're meant to do.
Yeah, failure doesn't happen unless you stop trying. So true.
Right.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Keep going. Well, you guys, if you want to reach out to Melissa, I've dropped her LinkedIn into the chat. Reach out to her. Kimberly might with Cybersecurity Central, because she's totally into gaming. Melissa, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for the time. Nice to chat with you all. Have a great day.
Bye, girl. So amazing. I am honored that I have the opportunity to meet individuals like Melissa to share their story with you all. If you guys enjoyed this episode, I would ask you, make sure to like, and then if you think that somebody could benefit from this episode, go ahead and share that out with them. If you're new here and you enjoyed this episode, I would highly encourage you to hit that subscribe button. Every Thursday, I go live from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to be able to bring you information in technology, innovation, and cybersecurity. And I do it with either doing one-on-one interviews like this, fireside chats, or we do just hang out and we do panels, all of the things. So thank you guys for all of the guests that were popping in today. I love seeing you all. Thank you, Bob, Kimberly, Carrie. Always great to see you all back to the show. My repeat offenders is what I call you. So what do we've got cooking for next week? Just to give you guys a sneak peek, really excited about this. I am having my dear friend, Mike Jones, the haunted hacker, on. So do you think that multi-factor authentication is not hackable? Well, you'll be in for a sweet surprise because next week we are going to watch Mike Jones hack multi-factor authentication. And then we're going to teach you how to protect yourself from one of these attacks, or at least mitigate it and reduce it. And then the following week, I'm very excited. We've got Stefan Simmelroth and Eric Taylor coming on the show in 2 weeks. And we're going to talk about security and developing a cybersecurity program and how to build one on a budget. You don't need to spend $6 to $7 million. I almost said that. 6 to 7 figures. Most of them are around that, 6 to 7 million, or $250,000. And more doesn't mean more secure. So we're going to dive into all of that. All right. So that is all I have, you guys. Just a reminder, in about 1 minute, Simply Cyber, Dr. Gerald Auger is going to be going live, and I will be over there shortly. Thank you guys again. I love you all. I'm signing out.